Hello, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. Welcome to the Starseed Ministry. It is February 6th, 2023. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for being here. Whew. Let's just prepare ourselves to take a nice, deep, cleansing breath right now. I think we could all stand to take a deep breath and reconnect ourselves to the rhythm of the universe here through our breath, because wow, how many of you had your oh shit moment with this full moon? Perhaps it was an oh shit versus an aha moment. They were probably one and the same is my guess, but I think a nice deep breath is in order here. So in order to prepare for this seemingly intuitive thing that we all do, which is breathing, just imagine here. You don't even have to imagine that deeply because it's in fact what is actually happening. You want to focus on the diaphragm, that muscle at the bottom of your lungs that is contracting and really fanning out when you take a breath. And what that's doing is pulling open the volume of your lungs, changing the pressure, which allows air to naturally rush into your lungs and fill with all of the oxygen that you need. Also, too, when you do deep diaphragmatic breathing, it actually is helping to move the lymph in the center of your body into the nodes that are in the center of your body. So deep diaphragmatic breathing is also crucial to our lymphatic system and our immune system. So and to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which I feel is going to be and continues to be absolutely essential right now. So we're going to talk about that oh shit moment that came with the full moon. Perhaps, like I said, it was an aha moment, but my guess it was probably both of those things together. So as we prepare for this deep breath, okay, ready? So breathing in, filling the lungs to the top, and release. Okay. So, my friends, I hope people had a good weekend. We did have a full moon yesterday on the 5th. We had the Venus square Mars transit that happened on the 4th. And we had the Sun square Uranus on the 3rd. So it was really just setting up the pins to really just get knocked down. And the good thing about an oh shit moment is it usually is a lot of clarity as a result of that breakout moment. So something we've talked about last week, it was in the weekly astrology report for the Starseed Fellowship, and no doubt is something that has been presented in any number of other venues or channels about astrology. The Sun square Uranus, it's so important that we remain flexible, that we are open-minded with the change that is brought about when these two bodies come into that square angle. So I invite you to at least consider, maybe share with us on the live chat or in the comments where your breakout or oh shit moment came from. But now that we're in our full moon phase, and we'll look at the astrology definitely of today in particular, we have Mercury in a sextile to Neptune. We have a yod with those two, with our Leo moon. It's going to be moving into Virgo by the end of today. And wow, what an incredible reading that I am going to share with you today as well. These oh shit moments. The full moon is the moment of illumination, of culmination, where we have revealed to us what is working and functioning in relationship, either relationship within ourselves, the relationship in our lives that really matter, our relationship to God, our relationship to the universe, our relationship to society, whatever this is for you. The full moon is this culmination where we individually have illuminated within ourselves, our own emotional landscape, either what is going to continue to work for us or what absolutely needs to be cleansed away or released from our experience. And this is why I say, oh shit. because a lot of times with full moons, this is the case. And in this particular full moon, because we had the sun, the ruler of Leo, Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, in a square angle to each other leading up to this point, it is that much more intense. And so we're going to talk about chaos a little bit today too. I'd love to talk about that just briefly. And truly, the hidden motives, I really invite all of us to maybe kind of flip the perspective a little bit, where we can get so hyper fixated on others and their hidden motives being released and the veil dropping and the outside perspective being revealed to us. But really, what about our own hidden motives? What about our own capacity to really shield ourselves? And this full moon, I really, based on my own experience, and I would venture to guess many other people's experiences in a variety of ways, what is it that has been inadvertently revealed and shared and spread around because we have not been meticulous about our own astral hygiene, about our own motives that we have just put out there to be utilized as data points for algorithms that really have nothing else to do with anything other than continuing to control and manipulate our steps forward, okay? And so there's some things that seem counterintuitive, and as we go into the reading and look at the astrology, it's going to be like, wait, am I shielding myself, or am I supposed to come out and be seen? What is going on here? And I would point in the direction, actually, strangely enough, of where Venus is today. She is in Pisces. She is in a degree that has to do with how we shield ourselves through the use of our intelligence and mental subtlety and our cleverness. That doesn't mean that we're completely hiding, but it means that we are, in fact, shielding ourselves energetically. And this is this Syrian starseed activation, this degree where Venus is. And for those of you who have had the readings with me and familiar with the Syrian starseed resonance and frequency, this is the shamanic frequency. And when you go into the astral realms, the realms of the unseen, the energetic realms, there's a necessity to have guidance and elemental protection, and a way to go into these spaces with protection. And where does that come from? It comes from our hearts. It comes from the resonance from our hearts, the toroidal field that is created from our own heart's resonance. And Leo represents that energy that is released and really amplified through our own heart space. And so there are some interesting themes around this. And I will say that for me personally, I definitely had my oh shit moment over the weekend. It was really, I haven't been shook like this in a long time. And as much as that has been viscerally having an impact on me and my ability to stay calm and feel safe, it's also these moments that we need. We need these moments to bring to our awareness, oh shit, I have not been taking care of this need, and it is having an impact on my life, and that is reverberating out to the people around me, or that's reverberating out into my environment, and it's time to reel it in and bring our own hidden motives. And that sounds so negative when you say it out loud, like, oh, my hidden motives, I'm keeping things a secret. But maybe sometimes there is a necessity not to just pour yourself out to those who that are not here for your highest good, that don't have the best of intentions in mind, those who are only here to harvest and to manipulate and exploit. And we have a whole week leading up to our third quarter moon to really work with the message being disseminated by this full moon. So, strap in, my friends, because it's just gonna get even more crazy as we go on. So massive seismic activity that's just just happened. And of course, this is not surprising with the Sun square Uranus, especially because Uranus is in Taurus, the sign of the natural harmonics of the planet. And Aquarius being the wavelength, right? The collective wavelength that moves through life, basically. So this is not surprising. Whether or not it is a natural tendency or it has been manipulated in some way, well, that's something you're going to have to come to those conclusions yourself. I have my own perspective about it, and that's something we can talk about this week in the Starseed Fellowship and what's been going on. But isn't it interesting that Turkey just recently gave the finger to NATO, and now there are devastating earthquakes that are rippling through that area? That's so fascinating. I wonder what's going on with that. So I'm going to check in with the stream real quick, see how people are doing. Star T says, good morning. I had my moment this weekend for sure. My best friend suffered a head injury from a bad fall. It was really scary and my soul hurts for her pain. But I'm grateful she's probably going to be okay. I'm so glad to hear that. And it's so interesting that you talked about actually in the Aquarius new moon video, you had actually talked about, you're like, I don't know if I should be excited or scared. And that's something we talked about, like maybe a little of both, right? And I'm really sorry to hear about your friend. That is really scary. Head injuries are absolutely no joke and should not be taken lightly. And I suspect there are many of these types of experiences that people are going to be relating to in their lives that are, bringing these types of feelings to the surface so that we can see them, so that we can identify them. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate your willingness to do so. Megan is wide awake in Tennessee. Good morning. Hey, check your email. Also, I'm going to be doing your reading today and sending it off just to let you know. You also are saying Dreamscape has been vivid this weekend. Big time. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of interesting really vivid and also very interesting revelations in dream time. My perspective about chaos and chaos theory is coming through as a guidance point, strangely enough. And sometimes, isn't it weird how your dreams will give you these symbolic references that are like, what is that supposed to mean? But then you realize, oh, that's my own language. This is my subconscious communicating these archetypes or ideas to me through the actual symbols in my personal life that relate to these things. And Star T also says, same for me about the dreams. Yes, it's been really, really strong. And across the board, I'm hearing it from lots of people as well. So, and not surprising that we have Mercury in a sextile to Neptune today. I mean, that really opens up the intuitive sensitivity and the acuteness. And what's interesting is we're going to talk about this yod that goes with today with the moon in relation to this sextile, because the opening is really, really strong, right? And it's right there for us to get these messages. And creativity is one of the best ways that we can make the most use out of this. But the struggle, I think, that many of us probably, especially last night when this yod was exact, is how do I focus my attention in on my heart when all of this information is kind of inundating my experience? And so we'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll certainly look at the reading as we go through. So guys, thank you for sharing your comments. I'll check back in with the stream in a little bit as we get into things. But I appreciate people's candidness and a willingness to share, especially because we know that this is not a secure place, right? This is why I have the Starseed Fellowship. This is why we do our Zoom calls. And I know Zoom is also not, at this point, it's not even about our devices, right? And I'm just just going to leave it there, because the more I say about anything else, the more I'm opening myself up to being even more messed with, and it's already been happening. And that was kind of my oh shit moment of just how much that's been happening. So if you're interested in the Starseed Fellowship and these private conversations that we have that are frank and they're with real people and that we are really learning from each other, you can actually go to the description box and get more information about the Starseed Fellowship and the Catalyst Classroom and how to be part of that. So before I get into it, the other thing I want to share, and I know I've been sharing it, but I'm going to keep this open for at least till the end of this lunar cycle, because it's so important, and the work I've been doing with people on these tune-ups is been really important. I've been releasing a lot of attachments with people through this, and which is not Reiki, by the way. I feel really strongly guided to make sure I make the distinction with Reiki, which is channeling the highest divine energy through, and to be more of a medium, and I hesitate to say that word, but you know what I mean, that I am a channel for it rather than doing the work energetically. But oftentimes it will lead me to needing to do shamanic work with people energetically. So I've been releasing attachments. Guidance has been coming through for people through these Reiki sessions. So I'm leaving this up till the end of the lunar cycle, which is going to be about the 20th of February. So you can also go to my homepage. It's linked in the description box below. You can book this at the discount. And it comes with the energy work session and the card reading that goes along with it. So it's been really powerful. I got a bunch already scheduled this week as well. So if you want to get in on this, this is now the time. The other thing I want to share that I have open right now is something that I call Starseed Synastry. Synastry is relationship astrology, but the reason I call this Starseed Synastry is because we look at your starseed markings, and this is great for we have Valentine's Day coming up. I could give a crap about it, honestly, but people do care about it, and it does bring out this time of year relationships and the value of them, especially when we're talking about Pisces coming up and the connection that we have with each other through our connection to Source or the universe or God or divinity. So starseed relationships, we really look at the karmic contracts. We look at the aspects that are overlapped in this lifetime with each other. So not only romantic relationships, but between you and your children, you and your parents. If you have an ancestor, excuse me, I've been burning incense nonstop for a reason I didn't understand. I was just like, I'm just burning this incense nonstop. And then I opened my little pocket New Testament into that random, and it just was like a whole passage about burning incense. And I was like, oh my God. So, but I may be coughing because it is kind of irritating to my throat. If you have an ancestor that you know what their birth details are and you really want to understand the overlap with them in terms of your starseed relationship, this is a great option. So this is available too. It's on my homepage. You can link, and it's on sale. It's usually $111 because we're bringing two people together and their astrological configurations. So I'm offering it at a sale rate of $88 right now. And this can be anybody. The only thing that I ask is if it is a person who is an adult, that they have informed consent, that they know you're going to do this, they say yes, and they give you their birth details. Now, if you're a parent and you have a minor child and you want to understand them as a starseed in relation to you and your karmic connection, implied consent if they are your minor child and they're in your home and you have, guardianship of them. So that's the only caveat about, I do not read for people that don't have, that are not giving consent to be read for. I feel like that's a huge violation and I won't do it. So, but if this is your child, that's a different story. But it can be anything, your friends, a family member, of course, your romantic partner, an ancestor, that kind of thing. This is a great way to get a sense of what your karmic relationship at that multidimensional level really looks like. So now that I have that stuff out of the way, I want to start getting into the meat of this transmission, which the reading is really where it's at right now. So I am going to share as I move things around here. I don't want to get too much into the space weather right this moment. But I do want to share just this funny thing that I noticed this morning when I was looking at the Schumann resonance, which was, doesn't it look like a little frowny face right here? That was the first thing I thought of when I looked at it. And of course, you know, this type of stuff is very subjective, but considering all of the seismic activity that's just happened, and there was actually a 5+ magnitude quake near Buffalo, New York, which is really close to me. And, you know, there's no fault lines really. I mean, you're talking about the Appalachian Mountains, so there's something there, but it's not like it happens here. And so that was just interesting. So I just saw this and I was like, yeah, frowny face indeed, right? Because whatever is getting picked up at that level with the Schumann is, I'm just getting that vibe here. It's just like, ouch, you know what I mean? The other thing that some of us have been doing is tracking the tones that we're getting and what's been going on. And that has been really quite enlightening in terms of what's going on with the Schumann, with the solar activity, the tones, when they're happening, the quality of them. You know, I have some opinions about them that I am not going to share here because, again, the more you open yourself publicly, with certain trigger words or ideas, the more you really do open yourself up to the influence. And so, I don't know, the frowny face, it just really stuck out to me. That's all I wanted to say about that. So what I'm going to do here is bring up the reading for today. And if I can find it, right? Multitasking. Not my strong suit, because I don't have a lick of Gemini in my natal chart. Strangely enough, though, in my draconic or oversoul, it's all Gemini. Wow. That really was eye-opening to me to know that the oversoul has this incredible stellium of Gemini, but in my natal chart, it's completely opposite. It's all Sagittarius. Oh, man, it is. It can be so frustrating when you're like your oversoul and your current personality in this lifetime. The blueprints are in complete opposition to each other, which can be a good thing in terms of complementing each other, but can also be very frustrating as well. So here's today's reading that I want to bring up for you guys. Wow. The things that strike me right away. So we have our 10 of discs as our causal factor, right? Wealth, the Mercury in the last decan or the last 10 degrees of Virgo, and a 10, which, by the way, the Yod is the Hebrew word. It's the 10th Hebrew letter. That's what I'm trying to spit out. The word Yod is the 10th Hebrew letter. So that was definitely not lost on me, that we have this Yod with Mercury and Neptune. And a Yod in astrology is you have 2 points that are in a sextile, and each of them come to a point of quincunx with one central point. And it's one of those moments where the sextile cannot really harmonize very easily because both points have this really unsettled energy at this point. So when we look at that, we'll unpack that a little bit more. It's very interesting that we have this Yod today that Mercury is involved with, and Mercury in Virgo represents this 10 of discs. So there is this completion of some sort of objective that is taking us into this moment. And then we have the 9 of Swords, which is cruelty. And cruelty is much more related to the ways that we are cruel to ourselves, and the ways that we have a hard time forgiving ourselves when we realize something, right? When we come to a realization of what's been going on and we're facing up to the facts, the cruel facts of something, right? Because the swords are the mental energy. Also ruled by Mars in the second decan of Gemini, which is exactly where Mars is right now. So this is the heart of the matter, but you have a 10 and a 9. And then in our polar axis here, our vertical axis, we have the Two of Roses reversed and the Two of Forces reversed. So we have these two twos that are both reversed, making up the two poles of our energetic axis. So there is this sense of right now the turnover of completion into a new energy, a new cycle that is we're struggling with. We're struggling with the turnover and what that means. But ultimately, we have the Fool, right? Which is neither the beginning nor the end. It is the zero, the cosmic egg. Isn't it interesting? We got all this egg stuff happening right now, too. Just in general. But the Fool is the zero, the beginning and the end, but it's also neither, right? It is the perpetual cycle that the Fool represents. And it does represent the innocence and trusting our instincts. And our instincts don't come from our head, right? They come from our heart, right? And so ultimately, even if we're struggling right now, even if we had this oh shit moment that we're like, uh-oh, oh wow, geez, I was really just pulled into this narrative so much that I missed it, right? And how much that has been influencing the energy around me and within me. The Fool is this moment of like, you know what? You just let it go, right? You let go of the past. You liquidate it completely. And I think this is where Mars in Gemini really is an asset right now. As much as it's hard in our minds to be like, oh man, I really screwed that up, or I was so deceived, or whatever. You face the facts and you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea, but it's still an impact. And did we not talk about this last week, about the ways that our creative and vital energy is used or released, and we still have to contend with what that has created regardless. And now the realization of it is just like, oh, tons of regret comes with the Nine of Swords, because we're just like, uh-oh, what have I done, right? And the ways we beat ourselves up over it. But the Fool is our, it's our redemption in a lot of ways. It's our deliverance, because we just let it go. And not that we're being, it's not like we let it go and we don't take responsibility for it. It's the idea that and it's the experience, not even an idea, it's an experience that in every moment we can leave the past behind. We can move into brand new territory and trust our instincts and have an innocence about us that is like walking off the edge of the cliff, right? That is the Fool. So it has this incredible potential. And again, this Uranian energy with the Fool is really, really strong. And so even with that sudden breakout of structure that Sun and Uranus and this full moon in Leo has brought to our attention, it is potential energy, which I think is a really good thing right now. And then our surrounding guidance. Platypus and peacock. I looked up, P is the 16th letter in our alphabet, the English, I guess, what was it? The Latin alphabet. I'm not exactly sure what you would refer to it as, the Western alphabet, right? Number 16. 7 is related to the quincunx, right? The idea of the Fool, right? That there is this fall from grace that is simultaneously our redemption or our deliverance, right? Our opportunity to adjust. And so this is coming up strong as well. So let's start unpacking this, shall we? The 10 of discs. Let's look at it up close and personal, my friends. So, the Wealth, the 10 of discs. Now, you see this is in the relationship to the Tree of Life or the Kabbalah, right? And many people have talked about this structure actually being in itself an inversion, right? Because if you read the Kabbalah as it is taught, it takes you down into manifestation. The energy is meant to go from the top to the bottom. So I find that really interesting in itself. Is it inverted? I don't know. But for the sake of this reading, we're going to look at this in a much larger context of what does wealth really mean, and what does this energy represent? The manifestation of the fruits of our labor, right? And that's that's not necessarily good or bad. It is the completion of an objective. It is energy that has unfolded to its richest potential. So it could be rotten fruit, right? It could be absolutely amazing, and all of the energy that we have gone into sowing and cultivating this crop has manifested into something beautiful and nourishing and really vibrant, okay? Regardless if it's rotten or not, it has come to full manifestation with the 10 of discs. So wealth is a little bit of a, it's not exactly a full definition other than this is what you have cultivated and sown and you have reaped, right? Now, this is about our will. And the will is about channeling our energy. And something to consider is that channeling our energy, and we've talked about this many times, it's not conscious. Or it's not always conscious, I should say. The real mark of mastery is when that subconscious energy is conscious, right? That there's no difference anymore, that what is embedded in the subconscious and where our feelings and our energetic landscape, the frequency of it is conscious to us. And this is where we become our own magicians, right? We're not trying to entangle ourselves in making anything happen. It's for healing purposes and to be in alignment with our highest potential and good. So when energy is not used, it will dissipate, right? And so the thing is, it's coming to fruition and manifestation regardless. And it's a channeling of our will, regardless if we're conscious of it or not. And it makes visible what is our inner wealth. So some people, yes, absolutely. They've had this experience of, aha, look at everything that I have brought forward. All of these richest potentials are unfolding right now. And I do truly feel wealthy. Other people are going to realize that their fruit is rotten. And they're like, what have I actually brought to bear here? Either way, this is the causal factor, and it represents a completion. This is number 10 in a element, the pentacles or the discs that have to do with the nuts and bolts of reality here, our physical manifestations. So then we get to the heart of the matter, which is our cruelty, our 9 of swords, right? It is a pretty rough energy. You look at this. And of course, the Thoth deck has always got this flair for the dramatic, for sure. But you see the blood dripping from all the swords, Mars in Gemini, which is where Mars is right now. And you can't stop thinking. You can't stop analyzing. Boy, I was feeling this over the weekend. Just so caught in the oh my God. And you cannot ignore what it is, right? You are just caught in the loop, but it highlights this card. The possibilities here are really, really good because it highlights the dark influences in our lives that have been, leading to this manifestation of the fruits of our labor. And it does show that there's danger lurking, right? And in our heart space, you better believe that this is a message and a indicator of we have got to get this on lockdown here. We have got to be way more in control of this energy coming from our hearts. And the Kundalini energy that releases into our hearts is meant to be for healing, right? I mean, that is the best case scenario here. But it also shows that there is danger lurking. And it also shows that going into the depths of a subject, we have to face the facts, and also is an indicator of the ways we denigrate ourselves because we discover what we don't like. So we turn the lens back on ourselves in a way that's not just about taking responsibility, but then we start beating ourselves up. For me, I was like, it's not only because I had my own oh shit moment of, wow, I've allowed myself to get caught up in this deception. This is just an example, but then you're judging yourself because for me, I'm leading, other people. And so that is a huge sense of guilt on my part, for instance. And people are able to make their own decisions. They're able to come to their own conclusions. But this is the way that I have been, kind of denigrating myself in this process, right? So how are you judging yourself? It's one thing to be aware of the danger lurking in your own heart. It's another to just beat yourself up over it. And that's what the cruelty is. The cruelty isn't outside of us. It's the ways that we destroy ourselves and are cruel to ourselves in our own mind. And you're just like analyzing and analyzing and analyzing, and you're just destroying yourself because of it. So, heart of the matter here, okay? And to take it easy and be real with yourself. Be real with the ways that this is coming up for you as well. Now, we have the Two of Forces, the Willow, as in reversal in terms of our energetic root. Now, this really, the winds of change are blowing around us. That is pretty obvious at this point. So when it's reversal, and it really indicates this conflict really is blowing us all around. And there is a need to stay flexible and bending instead of breaking, which is what the Sun square Uranus really set up for us. Are you going to bend in the demand of the times, or are you going to break because you're too rigid in that fixed energy? It may appear to be a period of total upheaval, right? It very well could appear that way. It's important that you stay centered. We stay centered, adaptable, and we rely on our deep spiritual roots. No matter what is happening and what we've come to realize, it's important to realize where we are rooted and grounded. And this is something that the Syrian starseed nature is really meant to bring forward, because when you are a steward and a guardian and a custodian of life as that shamanic presence, your deep spiritual roots go in deeper than your religious traditions, even your family history, right? You go deeper. There's this line in, if you guys are familiar with Deltron 3030, right? That one album, that first real album. And there's a song, and one of the lines is, you may need to go deeper than the books in your class, right? In terms of history. Well, I would argue you got to go deeper than even your own history, right? I'm recognizing very disturbing family history, and I keep learning more, and it's more disturbing the more I learn about it. And it's very easy to get caught in this, well, this is where I'm coming from and I can't get out of this energetic trap that I'm in. It's time to go deeper and rely on your connection to source, or to God, or the universe, or divinity, whatever name you give it, right? And your wisdom is grounded in truth, in the deepest truth, right? That's going to give us a sense of groundedness and stability in a time where you may feel ungrounded and unstable because the winds of change are blowing all around us right now. Now, and this is a 2, right? So we know we're at the beginning of something new. Now we have the winged messenger, the 2 of roses, also reversed. So you can see there's this little tea party, right? This is often referencing a drama in the home or a loved one. Like you have a misunderstanding, you have a conflict. When it's reversed, it's getting untenable. And it's not so much your tea party is disrupted, but it's starting to get more than just a misunderstanding. And I think that the way that I'm reading this and my personal experience of this is that there's more fear coming up. Fears and feelings may be drowning out the voice of God or your spirit, right? And it's important to step away from that conflict when others are determined to have their way. And they are determined to have their way no matter what, right? By, hanging on by tooth and nail, right? Again, power of the spirit is your foundation, and this is where the silhouette of the angel behind the dove of peace is really important. But its reversal here at the top of our awareness is that it is becoming really disruptive. The fear, the sense of, this is not just, this is not just a small drama. This is a big deal. and it is shaking it feels like it's shaking us. And this makes it even more important that we go deeper into our root here, into our sense of groundedness and our connection to life as a whole, because it's getting much more disruptive. And as much as we would love for people to come to the table with us and be like, okay, I want to sit down and work this out, or there's someone that's going to show up and like make this all better. We have got to make that connection to where we're truly powerful, right? And this was something we had our opportunity to do with the moon in Cancer as it was leading up to the full moon, right? That we were busting through those obstacles with that root system, right? It might be rocky soil. There may be a whole, level of bedrock that our root system is going to have to go through in order to sustain us as this is happening. So if you're feeling the fear, right? Know that fear energy is definitely going to keep you from establishing a deeper sense of foundation, okay? But it's a message. These things are happening so that we establish things deeper for ourselves. And sometimes it can be cruel. You don't like the way that the realizations that you're feeling and you're having. But without those, you don't have the opportunity to do the very thing you need to do, which is go deeper, right? To establish where your roots truly go. And like I said, you're the Fool. Right? Here's our opportunity to really just liquidate the past totally. True innocence, a perfect state of freedom and joy. There's no past, but just an infinite future. The zero is the shape of the cosmic egg. I think that's something to consider right now, especially because this is opposite of where Lilith is right now. And we'll get into that when we look at the chart. So also change and motion and the readiness to jump into life, right? The Fool, there's no difference between possibility and reality. It's not two different things. They are, in fact, the same thing, one and the same, right? And to always trust your instincts, right? That come from your heart and not your head, right? It's important to use your mind and your intellect and your knowledge base and your curiosity in order to know what's going on and to grow in consciousness, but your instincts come from the heart, right? And this also represents a positive breakup of limitation and structure, which the Sun square Uranus was setting up for us big time. So let's look at some of the guidance surrounding us. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting. Now, the Peacock says, let yourself stand out and be noticed, right? And in relation to the Fool, in relation to the Willow reversed, it's kind of like, wait a minute, don't I want to be shielding myself? Don't I want to actually protect my heart and protect my energy? But this is about how do we use our cleverness, our intellectual subtlety, our mental subtlety. Look at the Peacock, okay? What do you see when you see this peacock? The thing that you're seeing is the entire display that is attracting in a mate, right? That's what the whole point is, right? You're attracting in a mate. And something to consider is the peacock is the bird of Venus, right? Venus. We're going to talk about Venus today in Pisces. Now, the peacock is just this bird, right? But you see this huge display that is really catching the eye right now. And maybe it's not so much about stand out and be noticed, but maybe there are aspects about ourselves that do need to stand out and be noticed, like our the field that comes from our hearts, right? Maybe that is what needs to stand out and be noticed by those who are looking for somebody that resonates at that same frequency, somebody that is of the same resonance, of the same tribe, you know what I mean? Other starseeds. It also is a distraction from, the bird who is a vulnerable physical being, and then this huge display that is really catching the eye and the attention. Perhaps this is the thing that needs to be put out there, just like in where Venus is in Pisces right now, that there's a need to shield ourselves, and maybe it's our glamour, right? And glamour it's very much a fifth house and Leo thing, right? Our glamour, our creative expression, our voice really is that fifth house Leo energy. And so maybe we do put that out there and it's really shielding our true intentions. And I'm not suggesting that we're trying to keep something secret. And there are others that are absolutely engaged in this for nefarious reasons. And we know this. But perhaps it's about a distraction. Perhaps it's not even a distraction. Perhaps it is about really our essence and our glamour and our voice and our resonance being so strong that that is what is out there, rather than that vulnerable part of ourselves that is really the target, right? Just an idea, just a consideration, especially because the peacock is the bird of Venus. Now, oh gosh, the crocodile tears. So it says sob story, manipulation, and being baited. Oh boy. Now, you're going to see this on both sides of things, right? Being baited. Oh, poor me, right? The manipulation. And that's the type of thing that's going to blow around and get you caught up in the storm outside of you. Oh, poor me, the manipulation and being baited. Again, the peacock is putting out that display, and perhaps that is your shielding, right? Now, like I said, the peacock has that display to attract its right mate. Right? It's not attracting what it doesn't want when it is putting out that whole display. And so this crocodile tears, right? And we know what that means. The crocodile tears are like the fake tears, right? They're real tears, but they're coming from a place to get what you want instead of an expression of your true emotions. So it's important to know the difference here. And maybe you also feel like you've been baited and you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself. There's that Mars in Gemini, that cruelty again, that you're like, oh man, like I totally fell for it. And I've been manipulated. But I also feel like that that this is just to show us that there's going to be more of this, I think, coming out, and maybe the peacock as well is something that is drawing in our energy. Maybe we're feeling attracted to this display of manipulation and crocodile tears because we're not grounded. Does that make sense? With the Two of Forces reversed, if we're not grounded, we may feel pulled into the display and the manipulation and be baited. Boy, I can't tell you how much this has come into my awareness. And when you think, it's always when you think you're just like, oh, I can't get, nobody's gonna fool me. Boy, oh boy, it is a humbling experience when you're like, ah, shit. Oh my gosh. So things to consider here about being grounded, having your root system be stable and secure, drawing the waters of your own soul into your experience as things are blowing around you, and not falling for the sob story, right? And not falling for your own sob story either. It's just like, why? It's like, well, because you weren't on, you weren't taking care of what you needed to take care of, because you're so caught up in, fulfilling your own ego, the self-aggrandizing, whatever. I don't want to get too much into that. It's just how important this is to be just honest with ourselves and be able to know the difference between being manipulated and baited and what is actually like a genuine display of heart resonance. It's important to know. And if we're not grounded, you're not going to know. And you're going to get pulled right into the sob story, okay? So when it comes to our conscious awareness, this card is reversed. Now, upright, it says, lest the Kelpie drag you under. That's very interesting, especially with this winged messenger being reversed. It's like, get pulled into the drama even further. So, and it says suffocation, weighted down, murky situation, right? It's really easy to get pulled into this, especially with this Two of Roses. But when it's reversed, it indicates fresh air, right? Fresh air. let's see, fresh air, rising from the deep, and a clear understanding. This is a really beneficial thing here, considering all of this, and the platypus on top of it. It kind of is just like, stop complaining and focus your attention on your blessings, right? Power flows where attention goes. So if you're caught up still in the ways that you're feeling about it, and this is, this is in relation to lots of different things right now. Certainly on the macro, we know that there are lots of people coming to this Nine of Swords moment within themselves and the decisions they've made, and having to contend with what has finally come to fruition for themselves. And Virgo is all about that astral hygiene. And so if you haven't been doing it, it's going to still show up in its manifestation. This is about, you can still liquidate the past and still move forward. You don't have to be a slave to it. You don't have to sink down. You don't have to be dragged down into the situation. Power flows where power goes where attention is. Or power flows where attention goes. So this is about being aware of your blessings and making a conscious decision to focus on where you're going and to trust your instincts, and know that you probably have been getting those messages in your dreams, synchronicities, and some people have been ignoring them. Some people are willfully ignoring them because they don't comport with the narrative that they like to listen to. Some of us are just in a place where if we didn't get slapped in the face recently, we would not be able to pull it together in order to take the next step that we have to take, right? I mean, there's been some serious deep dives lately, and there's a lot of clear and lucid thinking now because of where we've been. And there's just been a lot of like, damn moments in the last couple of days. I was like, really? That person too? Shit. But deep down, I know it's true. And that's about being grounded and having your connection to source. So that's the reading for today, my friends. It is a little bit of a slap in the face, but this full moon, we have this whole week to really work with the message that is being conveyed from this full moon, right? What has allowed us to feel a sense of communion and togetherness in our hearts, because there is this identification with the need to protect ourselves from astral intrusion. I mean, straight up. And that can be truly the ways that we are internally influenced by signaling. And it's not just social media and information, although that is absolutely part of it. We're past that now, right? And that's something that I had to wake up to, that it's way more embedded than I ever imagined. But deep down, I'm just like, yep, I knew it, and I ignored it because I wanted to stay in this place of fantasy land about it, that I somehow was not prone to it either, right? And I think a lot of people who think that they somehow have it together are not being realistic, and they actually are probably the most deceived right now. And they're people that we trust, and people who are doing exactly what I'm doing and are feeling like, oh, I don't have to, I am good to go. And it's like, oh boy, are you? I am just grateful that I'm at a part of my life now where my ego is like the fool I can embrace so much more easily than I ever have in my life. And and it's because my relationship to the universe, to God, basically, is so strong now that I can let those moments go and be delivered in any given moment when I finally admit it to myself. So that's the transmission, guys. It's intense, but we're in intense times, and we have to start getting really real with ourselves. So I want to bring up, so I'm going to take down the reading. I'm going to bring up the chart for today because I really would like to, well, there's our frowny face again. And bring up the chart for today, and I'm going to check in with the stream and see if there's any other comments or questions I can bring up. As far as cruelty, so Star T says, as far as cruelty to self, I've come to find that sometimes when in those mental loops, I just have to make peace with the worst case scenario, and then I am more prepared to accept whatever shall come. Wow. That is totally what I do, actually. And sometimes, yes, you have to make peace with it. And I found that to be really difficult because it's really scary and you're just like, whoa. But you're so right about that. And I really appreciate that perspective a lot. So thank you for sharing that. And Megan says, the Kelpie. I learned this from Disney, for better or worse. Mythical horse that drags people into the water if they don't recognize it and do the right things to overcome it. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, I have to be honest. Like, I didn't have enough time to really dig into the Kelpie imagery before I came on here, so I was just gonna let it fly. But so thank you for sharing that, because I had no idea what it was. And that's exactly, gosh, you Megan, you completely you just nailed it right in there. That drags them into the water. And we do have this Venus in Pisces energy, and damn if that's not dragging people into the water. Because the boundaries just go away when Venus is involved. And Neptune in Pisces, of course, is a big part of this. And making peace with the worst case scenario is not easy, that's for sure. It's really scary. Oh, it's awful. It's awful. My dad's going back into the hospital. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's still an unending thing. And of course, he's made decisions about medical interventions on his own terms that I know are actually part of why this continues to happen. And it's hard to hold space for yourself, hold space for other people, be compassionate, but honest and realistic. And it can be really overwhelming. So you guys, we're doing the best we can, and the best thing we can do is be here for each other. Phoenix Rules, hello. I've actually been writing a snippet of my dreams for astrology connections. Ooh, great idea. I do that a lot. I got to the point, in the last couple of years that I will have those moments where I'm not fully awake, but I'm not fully asleep yet, where I'm subconsciously speaking to myself about like I will just speak astrology transits to myself subconsciously as I'm waking up, and I'll be like, oh gosh, yeah, I had no idea that this blah 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 was going to be important. So that's a great idea. Really good idea. So thanks for sharing that, because that's a really good that's something other people can do, especially if you're into dream journaling and stuff like that. So yeah, the mythical horse that drags people into the water. And I would say, my friends, as we're going to transition here into the astrology portion, Venus conjunct Neptune is coming, and that's going to be the cathartic purification. So it's either going to drag you into the water, as Megan said, if you don't recognize what is happening, or it's going to be this amazing moment of purification. And it'll probably be horrible and completely cathartic at the same time. So, but I would keep an eye on that, the Venus conjunct Neptune. And that's something we're going to talk about more in the weekly astrology for the Starseed Fellowship. So if you're interested in that weekly astro dive, the deep dive, it's $5 a month. You get it every week, and you also get the Starseed Fellowship Zoom chats twice a month, and you get 10% off everything in my store if you are part of that as well. So that's something to keep in mind, because I go way into the astrology every week as a part of that membership. So let's look at today's astrology. So okay, there's a couple things that are really important to bring up. The yod. First, we're going to talk about this yod, Mercury sextile Neptune. Now, Mercury is so close to coming out of its shadow. So close. Just days, right? It's going to come out of its retrograde shadow, and we will be out of that audit for good. And we're going to be moving into brand new territory, okay? So right now is that sextile over to Neptune in Pisces, that is really just everything is being dissolved down into what is your dharma, right? What is your dharma? What are your limitations? But what is your purpose? And how do you bring those things together into one centralized focus in a communal or collective setting? Everything is this right now, according to Neptune and Pisces. And remember, Neptune has 160 blah, blah, blah year orbit. And so, there is a cycle of this. And the last time Neptune was in Pisces was around the Civil War, right? So, and the Carrington event, right? All these things in the late 19th century that were really coming up on the reset, basically. The mud floods, if you guys are into that. We're in the same territory, right? And so this Mercury sextile in and of itself is where, like I said, your senses are allowing you to pick up on extra intuitive information. You're getting information through the dreams, right? And so as this has been building over the weekend and is exact today, people's dreams are getting really vivid. So you're more attuned to the larger picture. You can be very soothing and healing in your words to people. The best use of this energy usually is creativity, communication that is compassionate and loving to people, and to find, like I said, a creative channel. Now, what we're looking at in particular is a yod to this sextile, which is this moon in Leo. This was overnight, so this was even more pronounced in, especially if this was dream time for you, it was even more pronounced. And so what do we have with this yod with both of these things, right? A yod in itself is a crisis and a need for perspective. And the sextile planets that usually find harmony with each other, Mercury and Neptune, find difficulty integrating with that apex, okay? Now we're starting to get into Starseed territory. Late Leo, 25, 26, 27 in terms of galactic astrology is the Atlantean degrees, okay? So there's a lot going on with that. It's in a square to the Pleiades. It's in a sextile to Orion, okay? You see that story, and it is coming to the surface, right? It is the story and all of the elements related to how that vital energy can either be used for creativity and healing, or how it can be released and destructive, right? Just like when the Kundalini is released, if it is released in an untrained, if the heart is weak, right? If the vessel is not able to hold the intensity of the Kundalini, people have psychological breaks. They do. And I've seen it happen. And we've all had those moments. I know we have. We've had our own moments where we've broke because of these releases. So when we have the yod to this point, it's a seemingly irresolvable situation. And it has a lot to do with what are we going to do? How are we going to keep our hearts in this totally concentrated place where all of the information outside of us we are pushing away? I call this degree actually the ADD degree, 24 degrees Leo, because you are so concentrated on making that connection, to and allowing divinity to move through you, and you're so focused on that everything outside of you becomes irrelevant. And so the Sabian symbol is like this Hindu yogi, right? The sadhus that are complete, like their hair is completely matted, right? Their fingernails are long and dirty, like they have completely let go of themselves. And I call this the ADD degree because contrary to the ways that we have been, that has been diagnosed and attempted to be destroyed, basically, people that have ADD truly have this capacity to really focus on exactly what matters in the moment, which is their authentic and sovereign expression. And this is why kids with ADD can't pay attention to anything that doesn't hold that for them in that moment. So, And we see that there is a concerted campaign to absolutely destroy and medicate these kids for decades now. And it continues, right? It absolutely continues so that they can be functional, right? They are completely functional because they are like, beacons or incredible resonators, right? And it's because they have this capacity to push every distraction away, which seems to be counterintuitive to what ADD. And it's like, no, they don't have an attention deficit. It's just they have an attention deficit to what you want them to focus on, which is not their sovereign expression of who they are. Anyway, so this yod is this seemingly irresolvable situation with this moon degree. Now, the best way to work with a yod is to allow things to surface rather than trying to force them or seek them out. It's like a secret message that has to be decoded, right? And visitation, big time. This Mercury-Neptune sextile, definitely spiritual visitation. So how do we take that and harmonize it when we are being tasked with this moment of trying, to push away everything and only focus on the inside? Well, that's for each of us to figure out. What is our secret message that we need to decode? Knowing where Leo is in your chart, where Aquarius is in your chart, where Neptune, where all of this is in your chart is going to give you the territory. So that's already come and gone in terms of the moon's yod. The Mercury-Neptune sextile will continue to be very present, but that yod was that moment of like, how do I push it all away, but also not push away the influence of spiritual messaging and intuition? Well, we have to figure out how to have a strong toroidal field without shutting down everything, but also not just being totally open to what is being potentially presented to us or influencing us, okay? Now, the other thing that is really strong today is the moon is opposite Saturn. And this is such a lonely and depressing transit in and of itself. You feel sad, you feel bored, you feel lonely when the sun is opposite Saturn, right? You have morbid outlook on life. You're feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, where does that sound familiar? Oh, that's right, that 9 of Swords. And Aquarius is an air sign, by the way. You may find yourself really separating people because you're in a really, really bad mood when you have a moon opposite Saturn, okay? So then you have, again, the galactic degrees, 26 to 27 Leo, 26 to 27 Aquarius. I think that, again, it can be really difficult to separate or to not get caught up in this like feeling of you want to be illuminated, you want to have that moment of awakening and you're feeling this emotion of awakening, but societally Saturn is like the wet blanket and the morbid outlook of like, oh, the container is broken, right? There is the vase is broken and all the water's leaking out of it and the flowers are starting to wilt, right? And you start feeling sorry for yourself. You can't actually connect in with people and you start separating yourself. So I would say that this opposition, to just take it for what it is, and instead of feeling sorry for yourself, use it as a moment of illumination, right? To be aware of the possibility of stepping into a new cycle, just because the old system and the old consciousness is having, there's a permanency here that's important to recognize, that just, again, liquidating the past, moving into the infinite future, instead of getting really caught up in the morbid outlook. And there's that fear, right? There's that fear resonance that comes in. So after this has happened, the moon, is void, of course. That doesn't mean there won't be things happening, because then the moon is going to be in a quincunx to Pluto. Oh my gosh, isn't it so fun? It's all quincunxes today, guys. The moon is in quincunxes to everything today. So quincunx to Pluto, and that in particular is, again, it's harder to control your emotions when the moon is in quincunx to Pluto, right? This is a moment of adjustment, fears, worries, buried secrets. Oh boy, hidden, the sun in Aquarius is in those hidden motives becoming unmasked, right? Buried secrets can really torture us and make you feel bad about yourself. Oh boy, maybe discover a family secret. Oh, that is something. And talk about like your root system, right? Maybe you discover, oh my gosh, like what I didn't realize how bad it was in this situation that has been influencing my sense of inner power and stability in my life is actually been based on this really disturbing thing I'm discovering. The best way to use this energy is to share those feelings with people you trust so you don't get caught in a explosive moment. And it's a great time to discover those secrets and solve the mysteries of things, because it's going to be way harder when the moon is in Scorpio and it's in a square with the sun, because then it's going to be, those secrets are going to be revealed, right? And emotionally, we're going to have a serious ideological crisis about this. So this moon quincunx Pluto today is an opportunity to take advantage of, okay, these things are emerging, and I see the writing on the wall right now in terms of the emergence of this, and maybe I need to talk to somebody, maybe I need to share my feelings with someone I trust so that it doesn't become this explosive crisis later on. Okay. And the last thing I really want to bring up is the fact that the Lilith is in a T-square to the nodes. And one of the things about a T-square is that this becomes the focal point, right? And we kind of have that bowstring pulled back. But what we often don't look at is the ghost part of this T-square, which is over here in Aquarius. And so Lilith, this is where I want to talk about chaos. And the idea that chaos may not actually be what we are led to believe, like that there's actual chaos, right? And there's chaos being created and generated, and this has come through in my own personal guidance points, certain dreams that with certain people that have led me back to these ideas. So a very good friend at one point who is a professor of dynamical systems and mathematical chaos theory, one time showed me like the easiest way to understand chaos theory from a mathematical perspective. And some of the best ways you can really understand this, I think, are to go look at Mandelbrot sets. Mathstown is a great YouTube channel that puts it to music, and you just watch the infinite unfolding of Mandelbrot sets. He said, you have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever, and you drop your cream into the coffee, and it creates this pattern that seemingly has no rhyme or reason. It just starts, you drop your cream into the coffee and it starts to unfold in this chaotic pattern, right? But is it? Because what you discover when you start going into the mathematics is that there are equations that map out these Mandelbrot sets, that map out these Julia sets, that there is actually a method to the madness or the chaos, right? And even in the most seemingly chaotic moments, you come back to something that is a universal language, which is math and frequency, that gives a structure. It's all there. And Lilith right now in a T-square to the nodes of the moon is this primal drive to create a sense of chaos and non-differentiation as a catabolic type of force. And I think the struggle with this, especially, in relation to the nodal axis of the moon, which is our soul's drive to evolve right now, is that we're moving in a position, in a place, we are moving in a direction with the north node or the ascending node, Rahu, in Taurus, that allows us to anticipate what is coming, because there is no chaos in nature, right? Entropy, sure, and I guess that's technically chaos, but the idea here is that it all is part of the divine fractal unfolding, okay? And yes, there's quantum entanglement, and maybe that seems chaotic, but there is a method to this. And the primal aspect of Lilith, I think, is really what we're seeing out in the world with certain things that are looking like they're creating chaos, right? Seismic activity that's causing destruction. Weather patterns. Weather is another dynamical system focus. Weather patterns that are like seemingly chaotic, right? It's not really chaotic at all. It's just creating a state of non-differentiation or chaos in order to to create or catalyze a new system. Now, we know how Lilith operates in astrology. If you are tapping into this power as a means to fulfill your own drives or to fill a void because you feel separated from God in that moment, it's going to be doing stuff that actually is creating quote unquote chaos for the sake of, here, I'm going to control what comes after this. It's when we release the frustration of feeling separate that we actually tap into the real power of the lunar apogee, which is when the time is right, the divine flame enters and that is the catalyzing force for transformation. We want to, and we are drawn towards being able to anticipate what is coming because there is a natural cycle to things, okay? And so what is the ghost point of this T-square over in Aquarius? Well, I would say it's the cosmic egg, and I would say that it is being able to find those mental archetypes of those who represent the person you want to grow into, the society you want to be part of. And that really helps give a target for that bowstring, because otherwise you're just here with this bowstring pulled back and you have all this potential and energy here with nowhere to go. And then we keep focusing on the bowstring. You want to release it. And that's the opposite of the focal point of the T-square. There's a lot of frustration here. We want to know. We're being pulled into a place that's like, to be able to anticipate what is coming, because when you're tapped into the natural harmonics of life, you can, and your ego may not always like it. And in fact, what is coming is that the seed falls away, and that is our ego, and people don't like that, and they do everything they can to avoid that. But that's part of being in life and being part of this experience. And the more that you can not try to fill the void yourself, the better off we're going to be. And you can't do anything about the people who are, in fact, attempting to sow chaos in order to control what comes next. But you can stay focused on who you want to be and who you want to be who you want to be with, right? What type of society you want to be part of. What represents the collective resonance that is in harmony with your heart. And this is why trusting your instincts is so, so important right now, because the surface level of stuff sounds great and shiny, right? And you're like, oh, they say all the right things, but it's your instincts in your heart that are going to let you know, oh, that's resonant. Oh, that's dissonant. And it's going to be different for everyone. Okay? So I'm going to leave it there, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Don't forget about the energetic tune-up that is still available, the Starseed Synastry, and I'm thinking about actually offering the Galactic Oversoul readings again at a sale rate, because I know for me, that has given me so much perspective of the unconscious drives that are not always really accessible, because we're so focused on the natal chart, which is important. It's our blueprint in this lifetime, but our oversoul is very much driving as well. And sometimes having an understanding of what's going on at that level is really, really helpful. So I think I'm going to offer that too at a sale rate. So if you're interested in that, just keep an eye out. You may want to get on my email list so you know when I offer it, or get on social media. But I'll let you know the next time we come on for the Starseed Ministry. So I'm going to check in with the stream real quick and see if anybody else has anything to offer. So Crowley calls those who ascend too quickly and not ready for it babes of the abyss. I would agree with that. And they become fodder, basically. Right? You think you're awake, but you're not. You think you've ascended, but you haven't. You're trapped in the abyss. Absolutely. And, there's a lot, Crowley as a name, as a person, like it's so loaded at this point. And we have to be able to just take the teachings from these people and, separate the message from the messenger, right? And you're trapped. Not only are you trapped in the abyss, I would go further and say that you've become food for those who are also trapped in there. So, and yeah, when you're awake but you're not, you think you're awake but you're not, and this is one of the biggest traps. I think it's a huge trap of religion, belief system in general, all that ninth house stuff, right? It's a huge trap. If that area of your life is solidified and crystallized, that's exactly how you get trapped. You get trapped in your own dogma. You get trapped in your own belief system. You get trapped in your own narrative and your own paradigm, and you can never actually take yourself out of it until it all comes crashing down on you. So, that's the dark night of the soul for a lot of people. So, babes of the abyss, my gosh. And they're looking for people like that, right? I mean, there's been so much of an effort, and I'm getting into territory I shouldn't really be talking about right now on this platform, but there's been a concerted effort to throw people into the abyss, to set things up so they are going into that place. So I appreciate that perspective as well. Thank you for sharing it. So, my friends, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Have a great week. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you next week for the Starseed Ministry, Starseed Fellowship. We're going to schedule our Zoom call this week. We're going to have our astrology report. Our weekly astrology report will be on Wednesday, and I'm going to get the Catalyst Classroom material out this week, I swear, now that things are starting to settle down. So in the meantime, guys, I love you. My heart is with you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other the best you can, and I'll see you on the flip side. Later.